Oops, sorry. Hello, Leute. Hi, people, and welcome to another the Dämmerung, which is dusk in German, as in Gute Dämmerung. Is it Gute Dämmerung? Is that an opera or something? Anyway, and yeah, welcome to another Thinking Aloud with me, Claire Driver, and you find me at the Frozen Rieksee, and there's going to be some people coming into shot in a minute. There you go. People and a dog, I think. It's completely frozen, and when I arrived about half an hour ago, when it was still a bit lighter, it was absolutely full of people skating and pulling sledges and playing ice hockey. Germans love to be outside. It's a beautiful lake, only a short drive from where we live, and in spring and summer I'm swimming in there. Don't want to go in there today though, it's pretty cold. So I've come out for a bit of fresh air. I love this time of the day. Sun going down over the Alps. And the light has a completely different quality for the rest of the day. Yeah, so welcome to my evening preamble around Rieksee. So, I thought I'd make a little video about something I've been thinking about since I listened to a brilliant podcast episode this morning from a show called Cautionary with Tim Harford, and I can wholeheartedly recommend the podcast. It's brilliant, and for anyone like me that's interested in understanding why people do the things they do, and especially why we do the things we do, or make decisions, or maybe don't make decisions, react the way that we do when we're under pressure and in emergency or crisis situations, then it is a must listen. It's just brilliant. I'll put a link to it in the description for this episode. And today's episode was about the mutiny on the Bounty, and no spoiler alert, it was so writ large, as is with any tale of human suffering, or it was writ large that all of the characters in the story were in full-on reactive mode. You know, were reacting to the things that were going on around them, the situations that they found themselves in, as we all do, and you do in life. And reaction isn't in and of itself a bad thing, but the time that it starts to cause us problems is when we react from a place of emotionality, or from without that central sense of being rooted in that other sense of who we are underneath all of this stuff that happens to in the world, which is this being rooted in that other dimension of being that I've talked about in other videos. You know, most of us are dragged along by our crazy, overthinking, reactive minds. And our days and our entire lives are coloured by and controlled by the things that happen externally, the things that the normal unfolding of life, with all its dramas and challenges and problems and excitements and change, and it's all of the stuff that we have, over which we have little, or most of the time no control, you know. And that's what dictated the quality of my life for many, many, many years, and still can very easily trip me up again when something unexpected, or it might not even be unexpected, but something happens in my life that triggers me. You know, we hear that word a lot. It's used a lot, triggering. And it's really appropriate because we all have this script that runs in us based on our experiences in childhood and our own personal experiences, our family's experiences, the culture that we grew up in. And there will be certain patterns in our lives that we repeat again and again, normally in response to something happening external to us. And most of us are completely controlled by this reactivity and all of the stuff that we add to it in our own heads. And in this episode, the podcast episode, it was just writ large, you know. There was just like a ship full of sailors running around completely out of control, reacting emotionally, thinking that the captain thinking that rational thought and rational logic was going to, all they needed to do was just apply these rules and everything was going to be fine, not taking into account the human element, which is of course the thing that is so powerful and so can be so positive, but can also be really damaging and destructive. And it's really easy to slip back into that trap. And to think that and to allow the quality of your experience of life, of how your life unfolds, be dictated by stuff outside of you and other people. It's just, and we think that is normal for most people. It's normal, you know. I wouldn't be having such a shitty day if they hadn't have said this to me. And, you know, how can I possibly be happy in the world with all of this insecurity that's going on, all of the stuff that I see on the news every day? How can I possibly expect to be happy? You know, that's how most of us are most of the time, you know. And we have a good day when someone's nice to us, you know, and there is this huge seesawing between completely dependent on what goes on outside of us. Stuff over which we have no control. And it took me a long time to realise that my life wasn't the way it was, which was really deeply troubled and chaotic and painful and full of suffering and full of the suffering that I caused myself and also others. It wasn't that my life was that way because the world did this to me. Rather, it was like that because of my reaction to what was going on in the world. That was the only thing that I had any control over. And I remember realising it, and it was like a switch was flipped. And I only realised it when things got bad enough for me to not have any other options. No one else to blame. And it's like night and day when you realise that. And even though still I can get caught up, and I've made some videos, other videos, and I'm sure I'll make more as time goes on and things happen and more challenges come into my life, I can still get caught up and feel the emotions, the emotional reactivity, and especially when something hits a button in me, you know. We're all walking around with this script, like we're on stage, you know, that comes from our childhood, comes from our cultural, where we grew up, comes from our families, our experiences that basically has been running for all of our lives, you know. It's set down really strongly in childhood, but it continues throughout. And when something happens in our lives that pushes one of those buttons or triggers us, that's another way of thinking about it, the old script starts to play. You know, the same reactions start to happen, the same thought processes start to happen, and as a result the same emotions start to happen, and then we slip into the likelihood, it's a much likelier that we're going to be highly reactive and react in the same way. And the only way to break that, the only way I have learned and I know to get out of that misery, because it is absolutely miserable spending your life controlled by external stuff that you haven't got any control over, is to find that other dimension within ourselves, which is that dimension of being. I don't know if you can still see me because it's gone completely dark. I think I'm going to have to move.